In my relationship, I'm the leader. As a man, as a leader, I take it on that I know what she might like. So for an example, going out for the meal, I don't go, hey babe, what do you want to eat? And she goes, I don't know, what do you want? Hey, what do you? I'm already aware of what my girlfriend likes. And you know, I might go and book the table in advance. I might book the seat she might want. I might pay the waiter a little bit of extra money to make her feel special. Yeah.
Well, that kind of leadership sounds fine to me.
Thank you. Where there's roles to be played and jobs to be done, and we work as a team.
Hello, guys and girls. Hi, Steve and Anita. Hi. Steve Large and Anita Temesky, human behavior expert. And Steve, you're a men's coach. Is that correct?
I am, amongst many other things. It's predominantly men's coaching now. It just seems to be the way things have worked out for me.
Yeah. And I saw you doing some big things, literally, Steve Large.
Yeah, there you go.
Tell us a little bit more, what's your main area of expertise? What's your passion?
So my passion is, especially with myself and with my son growing up, there was, obviously in the 80s, there was a lot of macho male role models like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Rocky, So, for me, on my journey to be more spiritual, I wanted to learn a more balanced way of being as a man. Rather than the violent side, the aggression, the ego-based, and especially with my son growing up now, there's a lot of, the feminist movement, which, I'm not opposed to, but I'm more based around the family movement, where there's roles to be played and jobs to be done, and we work as a team. So, yeah, I coach people to help them understand themselves. And my passion is definitely helping men to reconnect with themselves and express themselves in a way that serves them.
Wow. And so, I mean, when we say roles, I mean, I do know what you're talking about. I do follow a few people who have this ethos. I don't think it's I'm not aligned completely, but I definitely see some value in it. Could you define more what you mean by roles within the family unit?
Yeah, so it's not like typical roles of, I was living by myself for many years. I know how to wash pots and pans. I know how to hoover my carpets. I know how to do my own washing, my own ironing. I don't think they're, typically what we're getting told is a female role. However, for me, femininity is the homemaker. Masculinity is the homemaker. We build the home. The lady makes it a home. So me raising my son predominantly by myself, my home, I've tried to play both roles and I'm not so great at playing the feminine, although, I put Christmas trees up and I wash the bed in and I iron his school uniform, make him a packed lunch. I do all of that stuff. However, that is not my strength. It would be nice to have the home with flowers and silly little cushions and stuff like that, which makes it a little bit softer.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, interesting.
So it's the nurturing side more so for me. And then the masculine side is the action, just get on with it.
And so do you think that it's important for, speaking of masculine and female, for men to stay in their masculine roles and women to stay in their feminine roles?
For me, it's, who knows what's what? I'm not here to say, there's any specific roles. However, I do understand our nature, so I had a question about this for many years, what is it to be a man? Because for me, that's my purpose. I want to be the best man I can be. That's more important than any job I do or anything in the world. I want to be the best version I can of that. And I know there's a lot of stigma about that, but, being here as a male, then for me, I want to be the best version of that or the best expression I can be. So, the way it comes to me and that guides my decisions is, the beginning of creation, there was a cell, everything is about life. That cell, needed to reproduce. It couldn't reproduce by itself, so it was split. It was split into two halves. Now, if them halves were the same, there's no polarity, no attraction. therefore they wouldn't be drawn back together. So there had to be, in essence, difference to create a polarity, to create a tension, to draw them back together, to create the third, the baby. Now, that baby, that new cell needs to be nurtured, and that also needs to be provided for and protected. So for me, as the cells have evolved into human beings, that for me is still the foundation of my purpose and masculine and femininity.
Oh, that's a really beautiful way that you've put it,
Cheers.
Steve. I love that. I love the way you
I
said
wanted
that.
to ask something as well, Steve, because it's quite interesting. I know, and this is going to be a generalisation, but I know quite a few men from Liverpool, in England, that are very in the masculine. They're very much of this stance about men being men and all this. Do you think there is something kind of culturally within, where your background, where you're from, that maybe breeds men more into this masculine dominance?
For me, it's not about dominance as such. However, where I grew up, in school, like there's a lot of promotion now, young girls and women get attacked. But I know from where I grew up, young boys get more bullying and attacked than girls ever did, So, it's crazy for me.
That's how personality type forms often.
Totally.
It's like
survival.
if we know the Enneagram, if we talk about the type 8, the challenger type on the Enneagram, that is the type that maybe experienced some sort of bullying or something in their lives that happened at an early age, which made them go, I will never be weak again. I need to be strong. I need to be in my masculine. So
it's not about being weak as such. It's about, you have to learn to survive. You either go out and you bump into the local gang and get picked on and get your stuff taken, or you learn to protect your stuff. It's very primitive in nature, of course. There's not much else on offer. There's not much, people doing consciousness work in them areas. It's about, how do I survive? How do I feed myself? So, my journey took me away from that. So my blessing is I was vegan for 5 years. I'd done very much the spirituality thing, don't hurt a fly. And I've come through. So I'm fortunate to have balance from both sides, or an extremity of both sides, which has helped me find something in the middle, or what I believe to be the middle.
Yeah. So when you coach these men, what do you find? What sort of guys do you tend to come into coaching? Are they more maybe a bit more feminine, or are they more in their masculine? Like what is it that you're finding comes to you, and what sort of work do you do with them?
I just find it's men who are lost. They either get told they're the feminist movement, which is happy wife, happy life, or they get the Andrew Tate version. Yeah, there's no real balance. For me, being a man is, I can dominate, I can kill, I can harm, I can hurt, because I'm a man. However, my service is for women and children and the protection of them. That's my nature. It comes back to the cell. My nature is to protect, but who am I protecting if I don't have the skill to harm? Do you know what I mean? I'm no use.
Teaching men to harm then, because you're saying if they're coming in and they're not already in this, I'm a killer.
That's not what I said at all. yeah.
And you definitely
all men that come to you in coaching, if they're lost, they have this killer mentality about, or maybe they do. That's why they're lost. I don't know.
So essentially, men need to reconnect with themselves and their nature. I don't think teaching men to eat tofu and grow a man bun is the evolution of man. I think that's the domestication of man. Yeah. I don't think that's our natural evolution. You definitely have a
lot of valid points there. Like, I can definitely see where you're at with it. When I look at the state of the world currently, I think men forcing themselves to be in their masculinity, and I generalize, collectively is why, or their version of masculinity is why we're in the way the world is the way it is. There's a lot of harm, there's a lot of aggression, and it's not gender based. I'm talking about the masculine energy. Yeah. For me, I think the masculine energy is going into an evolution that they must be more loving and compassionate and kind and gentle, because that's the real power. The real power for me isn't a gender role, isn't your strength. The real power is how gently can you love?
Yeah.
My take on it.
And that's very feminine, and that's very beautiful from a feminine aspect, and that's very much needed, but it's not balanced. Yeah. You know, because I could go into the extremities of what the need for masculinity is. And that's why, you know, we converse. Because for me, you know, is not having any power and not using it, is that really strength, or just not having any strength? You know, real strength is having the power and choosing when to use it. You know, I feel like, you know, lack of masculinity is what the problem is. You know, we need men to stand up to these weak males who have been raised as good little boys. And, you know, if your mummy's little soldier, you'll get what you want. And then they have this sense of entitlement. Hey, you know, I've bought you 3 drinks, now I'm going to rape you. They're the problem, not real men. Yeah, masculine men don't behave like that. Weak males do.
So go on, give us your description then, Steve, of what is a perfectly balanced man to you. What
I don't know what a perfectly balanced man is. You know, that's a subjective thing. So, you know, to me,
your points.
So, to me, what's balanced for me is having the power, you know, to do what I want, and it's the choices I make. Because if I don't have any power, and saying, hey, you know, I'm harmless. Well, that's not making a choice. That's just the fact that I'm harmless. Yeah, the strength is having the power, having the strength, the evolution of that. And then males, you know, using that to serve. Yeah, there's a difference between, you know the developmental stages. There's difference between a strong masculine male at a higher level than a strong masculine male at red level, for example.
Yeah, for sure. So even in what you just said there, it's like everything you described there could be applied to a woman as well, right? So we have choice and we have power. So it's kind of
and that would be great. Then we've got lots of masculine people. You know, for me, if I teach my boy to be vulnerable, it's cheered. If I teach him to be strong and independent, it's frowned upon. Now, if I had a daughter and I taught her to be vulnerable, it would be frowned upon. But strong and independent is cheered. Why?
Is it?
It certainly is.
I think there needs to be both. I think there needs to be both.
It was, sorry.
You know, there needs to be both because, again, like you mentioned, balance. I think the fact is that society has been imbalanced and men don't have spaces to be vulnerable. Men don't have spaces to be open. Men don't have spaces to share, which is causing a lot of externalized aggression. My sense is.
Yeah, so
suicide, potentially, you know,
so essentially,
suicide rates higher.
I don't know a man that goes to the gym and gets into his masculinity that feels suicidal. The ones that sit home crying about the life and being vulnerable are the ones who tend to kill themselves. But that's just my experience. We can't.
Well, yeah,
we
but
can't,
they go to the gym and then go home and cry. Like, what are we saying?
So that's just a perspective, you know. So the thing is, you know, we're trying to teach males, masculine males, to understand themselves through a feminine perspective. And it doesn't work. It's like me trying to teach you how to be a woman. There's no, I understand femininity, I understand these things, but I wouldn't in a million years presuppose I know how to be a woman better than a woman. I'm sharing my perspective as my perspective and my understanding. Yeah, I don't think men should be like me at all. Who's to say anybody is right? All I can do is trust my intuition and what comes to me and how it comes to me, what I see, how I process it, you know, and then the people who that aligns with choose to work with me, and the people it doesn't won't.
Are you would you say that getting strong physically is a really important factor in masculinity?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I can see that. I can also align with that. I think that's important on an innate level.
Yeah,
on a primal level.
Yeah, totally. You know, we're moving forward and saying, you know, this is how evolution should look, rather than trusting, you know, what nature, God, has given us in his infinite wisdom, more than any man can know. Yeah, so many people, so many experts know the best. I don't assume to know the best. I just try and follow nature.
Interesting.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. There's an evolution. Yeah. No, I don't think that at all. There's an evolution, but for me, why would God go through the trouble? Yeah, universal consciousness, whatever you want to label it, who designed everything. Yeah, why would it go through the trouble of creating two different genders, two different energies to say, hey, you're both the same and both be the same? Yeah, it just makes no sense to me. You think that? You think God didn't know? I think God knows everything. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but that's a woman's perspective, and I appreciate that. Yeah,
But
I think
can I
men
just
want to, work with their masculinity before they start to work with femininity, because I feel like that's what
Steve,
the problem is, most men.
you spent this time in, I sense you had a bit of a soft era, an opening era, a vegan era. Let's call it your vegan
Yeah,
era.
yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
wasn't that a part of the benefit of where you are now, that you're now in your masculine era, but you've got duality, you've got space in both, like you have access to both those sides of you. So is it not just as important for men to tap into that?
I wish I'd have got a male coach that helped me bypass that. I went through that because I listened to everything that was kind of being presented, and I followed that path, and I followed it all the way. I fully committed, and it was the realization that this is not for me. This is not what I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad I went through it. However, I don't believe I had to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Oh, so okay, that's really interesting. Yeah. So you don't think it has an effect on like who you are now? Is it black or white, or do you access
No.
both spaces to be balanced?
So I believe beyond myself, I'm neither man or woman. I'm not masculine or feminine. However, as an expression in a human body, I'm a man. However, I don't believe I am this self. I experience life as this self based on how it's conditioned mentally, cognitively, and the signals that sends into the body, the states it goes into, and then the condition of how it reacts to certain stimulus in the world. But that's not me. That's just programming. So beyond myself, I am neither. However, as an expression chemically, I'm a man.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's my belief anyway,
And because you're expressing chemically as a man, are you saying you're trying to align with that chemical, that embodiment, rather than pull away?
So
and the traits, the strength, all the things. I mean, if you, I'm not sure. I'm just guessing, but being masculine, being strong physically, yes. Being in charge, would you say that makes you the decision maker in your relationship? Is that how it works? Could you go through the finer points of what you identify as being in your masculine, especially in your relationships?
So, I don't know if I've got 5 points as such. As my role, in my relationship, I'm the leader. But, it's not about, hey, I lead and I go down the pub and I'm a child. I take my leadership very serious. I'm very responsible, So as a leader, I put my girlfriend's needs as a priority. And I take the time to understand what she likes, what she doesn't like. And she trusts my leadership. Now, if I started acting like a child, she would soon get annoyed with me and test my leadership. So I have a great responsibility of that. There's a lot of couples who both try to lead and it ends up as a competition.
Interesting. And can you define what that leadership is? Like, what would that leadership be like? What's an example?
You know, so for an example, if we're going out for a meal, as a man, as a leader, I take it on that I know what she might like. So for an example, going out for a meal, I don't go, hey babe, what do you want to eat? And she goes, I don't know, what do you want? Hey, what do you want? And then we get in an argument because she wants me to make a decision. So I'm already aware of what my girlfriend likes. And, you know, I might go and book the table in advance. I might book the seat she might want. I might pay the waiter a little bit of extra money to make her feel special. Yeah.
Well, that kind of leadership sounds fine to me.
Thank you. Yeah. You know, but it's like I take it seriously as a role.
And so that's a positive example of the leadership. Is there a less glamorous example of the leadership that you consider masculine in your relationship? That's what we're talking about, Anita. We lost you for a minute.
Yeah. So what I class as less glamorous is that, you know, I do what must be done. So how I feel doesn't come into it. You know, if the barbarians are at the gate, I don't say to my girlfriend, hey, do you fancy dealing with them? Because, you know, I'm not up for it today. It's not, you know, I'm in my safe space. No, I do what must be done regardless of how I feel. You know, and so that's probably the less glamorous.
Is there a dynamic, like, is there a space in your relationship where as the leader, you have made a decision that your partner is not happy with?
Yeah.
What happens then?
Leading isn't dictatorship. Leading isn't I'm the boss. Yeah, that's not what it is. So, you know, she can say and think whatever she wants. She's entitled to. I don't tell her when she can come and go. You know, she can make her choices. Yeah, we discuss like grown-ups.
Do you find that you date women that are quite feminine?
Totally.
Yeah. As in. So
I've got enough mates and bros.
What's that?
I said I've got enough mates and bros.
Yeah. So
I don't want to date one.
Uber feminine women rather than someone who's maybe a bit more balanced, or you like the uber feminine.
So a feminine woman, I become more masculine and protective around the feminine woman.
To edit this out. One moment.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, go on, carry on.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sauce!
Yeah, it's all good.
Just makes my editing life a little more challenging. Yeah, okay, that's great. I'm just trying to get like a fine-tune idea of what the leadership and the masculine, because a lot of women are triggered when they hear things like, oh, you know, a man saying I lead. So just trying to really clear that up so we don't get no hate.
Let me ask you a question. Do either one of you want to be with a man that can't lead?
I can't make a decision quite equally. I think it's
that wasn't the question.
Quite an equal relationship.
So the question I asked is, would you like to be with a man who can't lead or make a decision?
Oh, hi. Sorry.
That's all right. I just needed a signature for that one.
Is she gone again?
Yeah, sorry. This is real life. Okay. Okay, yeah, Anita, what did you say to answer that question? That was riveting. Wait. So you want to be with someone balanced?
I would like to have a balance. So if you're asking about the leading perspective, can we both lead? So yes, I would like to be with someone who's as equal in leading as me.
Yeah, I see that. I get that. I mean, I think I would also like that. It's a tricky one because I don't know because there's aspects where I'm like, you know, actually I like the person to plan things and, you know, but then also when I met my partner and he was over planning everything and being quite in charge, I was loving it because my brain could take a rest after being single for so long.
Yeah,
but then
that's an extremity.
I was like, and he was just trying to like do nice things for me, but then I was like, hey, can you just like check in and just ask how I'm feeling and if I want to do that? Like, I think he was just trying to do everything. And then now we've been together almost 5 years and he's exhausted and his business is so busy and he doesn't do those things, and I'm like, hello?
Yeah.
What's going
Yeah.
on? Plan something.
And I definitely,
Yeah.
so what I noticed for me in my past is that I would be with we had our strengths in different things. So I maybe led on the planning things because that was my strength. They led on, let's say in that particular relationship, I didn't drive, so he would drive, you know, so we had our roles, but they weren't necessarily, I'm in the kitchen and he's, you know, doing whatever, putting up the Christmas tree.
Unfortunately, when people talk about leading and stuff like that, they jump to their own ideas of it. Yeah, you know, that if a man leads, it means he wants me in the kitchen and oppress me. And it's like, you know, that's not what it is at all. You know, I know for most women, if you can't make a decision, because I work with couples, and what annoys a woman more than anything is a man who can't make a decision, who can't take action and won't lead. Yeah,
I would often find in those dynamics that there's a lot of shadow element in that, and the woman is potentially more of a control freak. So I think there is, like in my own personal experience, when I look at the couples that I coach, when I look at my friends in relationships, whether it's the man or the woman, everyone thinks that they're leading more and they're doing more because all the people can really acknowledge is their own pain. So whenever I hear stuff in, you know, these dynamics of relationships, it's like people are just like, they're in the shit because everyone's struggling, everyone's trying to do things, they think they're doing more and they're earning more, or they're at home more, or whatever it is. And I just think there's, you know, so for me, the more balanced we can be and the more that we can talk about things, communicate, see how we're both doing our own roles individually, our own things, and appreciate what we're doing and what each other's doing, I think that's the best way, really. I think a fairness, whatever that looks like, whoever's doing the more masculine or the feminine roles, whatever you're better at, fucking do it and acknowledge what everyone's doing.
But that story isn't necessary at the beginning.
What's that?
The story isn't necessary at the beginning. You don't need that beginning story to say, let's communicate. Yeah, leading doesn't mean, you know, not communication, not checking in. Leading means that more than anything. Yeah, not leading could lead you to just be more selfish because you're not taking responsibility for what's going on, what's happening. So for me, my leadership is more about communication than anything else. Is to know my partner.
Do you not get burnt out though? Are you not burnt out? Because I know a lot of men, and I know my own partner as well, like liking me to do things for him, or I think he likes it when I surprise him too, because he's so overwhelmed with all the things he has to think of, like his kids and work and me. Like I sense there's an element there of him sometimes wanting to be taken care of, because when I do those things, he's really appreciative. So is there balance not required and ability to allow each other to go through cycles? Of where one might be doing more and one might be doing less, or one might be caring more, one might be caring less.
Leadership doesn't mean that isn't going on. See how people put like their subjective meanings to what something means? Because the way my relationship is, all of this stuff goes on too. Of course it does. Yeah, I don't burn myself out. I'm not here like Mr. Fix-It. Hey, I'll lead everything. I'm going to do this. I'm doing this. And hey, don't, you know, it's time for your toilet break. You know, that isn't going on at all. Yeah, we talk to each other. We communicate. However, you know, the responsibility of where we're going, I take in my son and I take in my girlfriend into account that together as a team, what are we doing? Where are we going? And it's me who steps up first to lead,
which is important to you, right? In your dynamic, yeah, I get that.
It's my role going along with what I believe nature is.
Yeah, so that's as you say, your beliefs. Yeah, but it's not everyone's. Yeah.
So I think what's interesting is like, what if one person, the partner, like what if leadership looks different for both of you? I mean, one person's version of leading is working a 9 to 5 till you're 70 so you can both retire. And another person's version of having a good life, the partner's good life, is travel.
Yeah. So that's just different values. So if I'm going to date with someone, I make sure our values align. Because there's no point me dating someone with a different value. I make them wrong, they make me wrong, and neither of us are wrong. We've just got different values.
Anita?
I was going to say we have some questions in from some people.
Yes.
Should we have a look at some more?
Yes. Could you do the questions? Because I actually forgot to pull them up, so it'll chuck me out of the system if I do.
Yeah.
Steve, do you have a generalized reply to why do men cheat?
So people in general cheat. Men especially is because the partner becomes too masculine, so they become friends. There's no polarity. Yeah, the sexual tension goes, and then a young girl predominantly comes along who's feminine. He feels more masculine, and that's why the stereotypical boss guy sleeps with the secretary that's younger.
And can I just check in, Steve, there? What do you mean by young girl? Like, is that a generalization? And why does it have to be young?
So it's not necessarily young. Young just means, you know, predominantly as people get older, they have more stories about relationships, more stories about men, more stories about...
So someone who's ignorant and not well-lived and not jaded and not had any relationship, someone that's pliable, would you say? I mean, youth, let me tell you, all my stupidity is in my youth. So if you're going to try and find someone young to have an affair with, what you're looking for is ignorance. So, am I right? I think I'm right.
Say that again, please.
So when we say, okay, a man's going to have an affair with a young girl, what for me I'm hearing is that, well, you're like that, they haven't had relationships or bitterness. Well, what's happening is you're looking for someone that's ignorant, someone that's not aware of their boundaries. You know what I mean? Yeah. As a generalization, that person's looking for someone with no boundaries.
No, it's not. That's a story. That's just a story.
But you just said that's that you don't have as much relationship experience.
So what it is the man no longer feels like a man predominantly in the relationship. Yeah, there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of this, a lot of that. He finds this young girl, he feels masculine again, and he likes it. Okay. No stories, you can make any story up why that happens you want. Yeah, however, as a nature thing, he feels like a man again around her. And he likes the feeling like a man. So he's attracted. There's polarity. Feminine, masculine polarity, sexual tension. That's what happens.
And that's because the woman was too masculine and the sexual tension.
Well, she just, in a relationship, you don't take, or generally people stop taking the time. Yeah. They start becoming friends, and that, that dynamic starts to fade away. The tension, the excitement. Yeah, you get on with your jobs and, I'm dropping the kids off at school. It's not right or wrong. It's just kind of what happens.
So
and then all of a sudden...
What is... with that perspective that you hold on why men cheat, where did you get to formulate that? Like, how does that come about?
So, it's my perspective on why, as a generalization, why men cheat. Obviously, there's limitless reasons. Everyone's got a reason why they do what they do. However, that's formulated just by, once again, how nature works for me. Why are men and women attracted? Because there's polarity. So why do men stop sleeping with their wives? Lack of polarity. Why do they go with someone else? There's polarity again.
Well, so yeah, from my perspective, a lot as I talk to men and women about this, it's a connection, right? We're looking for connection as human beings, as you say. The polarities come together, they connect, but it's kind of that thing as well where it's a loss.
I agree. So that's essentially what I'm saying. The disconnect is obviously the stories, otherwise there is no disconnect. Yeah, but it's predominantly, younger women, for the polarity aspect. The guy doesn't go out and have an affair with a woman just like his wife. Because that's another story, yeah. Yeah, I try not to go into the stories about things because, you know, I can make a story up about anything in limitless ways. So I just try and stick to what's going.
Yeah, I think you're excel at storytelling.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the story about the guy doesn't feel this, that, so he needs a younger woman. There's this massive story there already going along, built on your past and on your presuppositions about men wanting to look for a younger woman because they don't feel connected.
A generalized answer. That was a generalized answer on an energy level.
I don't think
of
that's
calamity.
generalized. I think that was very specific, and I respect some of your points, but I will tell you that that language saying they look for a young woman, that's specific. That's categorizing. I don't think all men do that.
And you're entitled to that. That's not the meaning coming from my location. However, that's your interpretation from yours. You're entitled to that.
I hear you. Thank you, Steve.
Wow, you're welcome.
Grown up.
Yeah, there you go. By stacking stories. Yeah. Yeah. With his expectations. I don't know. You'd have to ask him. Everyone's different. I can't speak for him. Yeah. Yeah. So, a more connect with himself, connect with his heart, connect with his nature. He doesn't have to think about it. Masculinity isn't in your head, it's in your heart. That's all going to be subjective too. Yeah. What one person thinks is masculine is different to what another person will think.
Yeah. Interesting. Any more questions, Anita? Yeah. Look, to wrap up, we'll just do a quick summary. Look, Steve, I think you've got some really interesting points. They probably don't align with all my values, but I think that's a conversation that needs to be had and is really important because conversation is so good for growing our ability to expand our mind and our perspective. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
And and I think there's some really good points about being masculine there, you know. Anita, do you have any final words? I love it.
Yeah. No, you're welcome. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny, we all did the same training, but made individual meaning about it. We are the example. Yeah. Awesome. Great chat. Love to do it again. Love to get spicy and, you know, just explore new thoughts. So thank you so much, both of you.
No, thank you as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.